In the aftermath of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting in 2012, first responders stumbled upon a scene of unimaginable horror. One officer later recalled, "I then walked into a room with Sergeant Cario. At first glance, it did not appear that there were any casualties. To the left of the room as you walk in, there was a bathroom in the corner. There was a massive pileup of bodies in this room. It appeared as if the teachers in the room, immediately upon hearing gunshots, began to pack children into the bathroom. Sergeant Cario began to lift bodies off the top of the pile and bring them to an open floor area. He began to look for life signs, wounds, and to attempt to find a pulse. One little girl was sitting, crouched between the toilet seat in the back corner of the room. 17 people lost their lives in that single bathroom, 15 children and 2 teachers. By then, the gunman had already murdered 9 others, and by the time it ended, 26 victims were deceased. To this day, it stands as the deadliest elementary school shooting in U.S. history. In 1992, 16-year-old Suzanne Capper was lured to a house in Manchester by people she thought were her friends. But for nearly a week, they tortured and humiliated her, breaking her arm, pulling out her teeth, shaving her head, and scrubbing her skin off with a wire brush before forcing her into a bathtub of disinfectant. They blasted tapes of the movie Child's Play to torment her, then drove her to a field, doused her in gasoline, and set her on fire. Suzanne survived for long enough to name her attackers before dying in the hospital 4 days later. 6 people were convicted for the heinous crimes. 4 received life sentences, including 2 women who were just 17 and 18 at the time, while the 2 remaining men were given lengthy prison terms. In February of 2024, 6-year-old Jocelyn Smith vanished from her home in South Africa, and the truth behind her disappearance completely shocked the nation. Her own mother, Raquel Smith, had trafficked Jocelyn to a traditional healer for use in a muti killing. Ritual murders where body parts like eyes, skin, or genitals are gathered for use in black market medicine believed to bring wealth or power. In court, witnesses testified that Smith admitted to selling her daughter for her eyes and skin, and a pastor revealed she'd once spoken of selling her children for as little as $275. Despite an extensive search, Jocelyn's remains were never found. In 2025, her mother, mother's boyfriend, and a friend were sentenced to life in prison, with the judge declaring their actions pure evil, while declaring that only the harshest punishment would suffice. In July of 2021, police in Essex, Maryland pulled over 33-year-old Nicole Johnson during a routine traffic stop, only to uncover something absolutely horrific. Officers noticed a stench of decomposition and maggots crawling from a bag inside her car. When they searched the trunk, Johnson pulled back a blanket to reveal the remains of her 7-year-old niece Jocelyn and her 5-year-old nephew Larry. Investigators later learned the children had been dead for months, Jocelyn for over a year. The woman admitted she had beaten the children to death, stuffed them into garbage bags, and left them in the car. Instead of calling authorities, Johnson went on with her life and drove around for months with both corpses in her trunk. The children had been left in her custody after their mother disappeared in 2019, but Johnson quickly subjected them to fatal abuse and neglect. Nicole was eventually sentenced to 50 years in prison for the gruesome crimes. In 2012, 14-year-old Cassidy Goodson from Florida was hiding a dark secret that would only come to light in the most horrifying way. After secretly giving birth in her bathroom, she used a pair of scissors to cut the cord, then strangled the newborn to death and hid his body inside a shoebox. Days later, her mother noticed a foul odor coming from Cassidy's room, opened the box, and made the shocking discovery before calling police. As a juvenile, Cassidy pleaded guilty to manslaughter, receiving just 18 months in detention and probation for a life she tried so desperately to erase. In 2011, police in South Korea discovered the body of a 58-year-old man inside an abandoned quarry in a scene that looked eerily like a crucifixion. He was found on a wooden cross wearing a crown of thorns and flanked by 2 smaller crosses with tools, written plans, and a tent nearby. After investigators reconstructed the event, they concluded that it was a carefully staged act he had carried out himself, and the death was officially ruled a suicide as the man had apparently crucified himself.